Hey everyone, in this video you're going to create a simple Vue 3 blog application using VS Code agent mode, or what we call the vibe coding. Now in this application you're going to create a list view for blog post whereby you are able to view different blog posts using Vue.js code, and of course you can navigate to each post, what we call the detailed view of a single blog post, and from there you are also able to view of course the single post, and then you can also navigate between different views, or you're going to create the route in Vue.js so you're able to navigate between different views. You're also going to implement a mock data with no real backend for simplicity, so just a simple mock data for our blog post. You're also going to implement a basic styling for modern look and feel of our blog application. So what are you waiting for? Let's jump right in. Our VS Code agent mode, building a Vue.js blog while vibe coding. So now let's get started. In this slide, we are going to look at the prerequisites that you need to have before we get started. And the first thing you're going to have is the VS Code installed within your machine, because that's what we're going to use primarily for this video. Then you also need to have Node.js and npm or /yarn installed on your system, and of course you can find this available online. Then you also need to have Git installed, because you're going to use Git and GitHub so as to push our code remotely. Then you need to have GitHub, as I've said, Copilot and Copilot chat extensions installed in VS Code. Of course, I'm going to show you how you're going to go about that. Then you also need to have agent mode enabled, which is often accessed, of course, through the chat interface. So you need to look for an agent toggle or an edit with Copilot workspace. So I'm going to show you how we are going to go about that in the next session. Okay, now let's get started with the phase one, which is iterative development with agent mode. And here what I want us to do is I want you to head over to your VS Code, of course, once you have installed it, and then you need to ensure that you have the GitHub Copilot. Of course, Copilot right now, when you install VS Code, it just comes automatic, but of course you still need to come and check within your extensions and then make sure you get the Copilot. So just go to your extensions and then of course look for Copilot, and you're going to find it available because it is there as one of your extensions. You can see this is the one that you need to have. That is if you don't have it. Right, now once you have that, now the next thing you need to do is you need to come and of course make sure you have the different models that you're going to be using. For example, mine, you can see here I have the Cloud 3.7 Sonnet thinking, and also the 3.5, and also others from other, of course, companies, but I'm going to use Cloud 3.7 because it is the best model right now in terms of coding. So that's what you're going to be working with. So make sure you have it selected, and then here is where you're going to write our prompt, and then of course here you need to have this as agent. So you need to enable this one as agent, and then here you need to choose the 3.7, Cloud 3.7, before we get started. Right, so I believe you already have that. So now we can continue in the next session. Right, now in this session, I want us to continue, and before we even get to initializing the Vue project, I would like you to create a folder within one of your local disk. For example, S is my local disk. It's one of my local disk within my PC, and then inside that local disk I have a folder by the name projects. And so far, for example, if I type ls command, you can see I already have a Vue project, the one that I've just shown you, of course, at the start as the demo project. So you need to have that, so that we can now go ahead and create another Vue project inside this given folder. So make sure you're at that point, and now we can start with session one. Now session one, I have this prompt which says initialize a new Vue 3 project in the current directory using TypeScript and Vue router. Following the setup recommended by the official Vue tooling, like, of course, this is the command I've specified so that, of course, it doesn't, because I noticed it kept going back and forth looking for the correct command. So I gave it a command so that it can go with this so that we don't waste time iterating here and there. And then, of course, use the npm package management. So the goal here is to create a Vue 3, and that is Vue 3 blog, of course, with the TypeScript. So once you have that, let's go ahead and run this. Ensure this is in urgent mode, and then go ahead and run this. And now let's wait for the copilot to go ahead and do this. And of course, you can see now here it has identified, and here it is asking me to continue. Now, this is very important. Of course, within your settings, you can set this. That is, if you go to preferences and then you go to settings, you can set this to auto run these commands. But this is very important for you not to set these commands by default. That is to be on auto run mode, because it may of course install some things that you don't want. So ensure all the time that it asks you before you don't want to do this. Always allow you don't want this. So this is important. So let's just continue. And here it's asking me for the workspace. So the workspace is inside here, and of course, as I've told you, this is on projects, which is this one here. I believe this one should be the one. Yeah, this is the one. Of course, so let me just go ahead and open this, and let's just open it again. All right, so now I have an empty folder. Now the folder is just empty, and now this is our prompt just as we had. So let me go ahead and run it just like we had so that we can now continue. Let's wait for it. Okay, now so this command is the one which is now going to create, that is npm create view latest, and then the name of our project is going to be my Vue blog. So I'm going to click continue. Now another thing you need to know is that using the urgent mode, now the copilot of course is going to run commands of course within the terminal. That's why you can see I have my git bash as default, but then I have now the copilot of course. Right, now you can see here we have different things that we need to do. So we need to select features that we want to include. Of course, here as I've said, we are going to use the TypeScript with our Vue. So here, create a new Vue 3 project with the predefined options. And then I just need to enable this continue. Then it is going to select the necessary items that we need. Okay, so we are supposed to run the command for it to install TypeScript with the router, Pinia, ESLint, and Prettier. And I'm going to continue with that. Now you can see I noticed that the Vue project creation tool is waiting for your input on some configuration. Let me try a different approach without requiring interaction. So let's continue with this. Now it scaffolds this, and as you can see here now we have this install. We have different items such as ESLint, and of course great, successfully created a new Vue 3 project with TypeScript and Vue router. Then the project has been scaffolded in my Vue, and we can see this. So now we can cd into this project, that is my Vue blog. All right, now the other one is now to install the npm install so that it can install of course project dependencies using npm, because remember in the In the prompt, we also indicated the npm package. All right, now you can see it. Now, lastly, it gives you a statement or a conclusion, just like, of course, with all the AI tools, of what it has done and the things it has been able to achieve so far, so that you can be able to track what you are doing. Okay, so the last one is this one, which is npm run dev. Of course, you need to run this so that we can run our project. So I apologize for the error that occurred when trying to start the development server. Let me try to start again. So it will continue iterating. If it gets an error, it will continue working on that error. And as you can see now, okay, so now npm run dev is the last command, and this will start the Vite development server, and you can access your application in this localhost. Of course, the project structure includes TypeScript, Vue router setup, the well-organized source structure with components, assets, views, and you can see this one. You can see all this from here. You can see, for example, we can go to the public and the source, and we can access the components for our application. As you can see, hello.vue. And what else do we have? So this is what we have, and we have welcome, view, etc, like that. Now we can go to the terminal and run npm run dev like this, the project. So we need to navigate to, so let's go to cd. So this should be my blog, my Vue blog, like that. Then now we can run the npm. Let me just see if I already have it. Yeah, so this is the one. Okay, now this will go ahead and run. Now I've just gotten another error here on running npm run dev, which says Vite is not recognized as internal external command. Because you are Vite coding, let's just go ahead and throw the error just as the way it is, and then click continue. And let's see what it is going to do. So it is able to be able to identify what is the issue. So it looks like Vite isn't installed properly in the Vue project. Let's fix this issue by ensuring all dependencies are correctly installed. Okay, so I've checked your package.json. Looks like Vite is correctly listed independent, but it seems dependencies may not have been properly installed. So you're going to run this command again, and you can see this is our package.json. All right, so I've gone ahead to install the npm install, of course, and as you can see now, it is now successfully installed because now we are able to run our project at this local host. And if I click on that link, you can see now our Vue.js with TypeScript is now installed, as you can see here. All right, now it is suggesting another approach for also, of course, starting your server, but of course, let's just continue and cancel this and continue with what we have currently. All right, so that is what we have, and that's what we've been able to install. Now what we can do next is we can now go ahead and do the git commit. And what I want you to do is, I believe you already have a GitHub account, so just come here and create a new repository and then give it a name. For example, this one, I'm going to give it my Vue blog, like that, and then just you can make it public or private, so I'll just leave it to public, like that. Yeah, and that's what we have. So the most important thing that I would like you to have is this part here, so that now in the next item that you're going to do is you're going to have this. All right, so this is what I'm going to have. So the prompt is going to say, could you initialize this app with Git for purposes of tracking it? this is the remote URL. So replace the remote URL with the one that you've created. So for example, I'm going to copy this one here. I'm going to copy this one here, and then I'm going to paste it there like that. Of course, you can do this manually, but because you are vibe coding, you don't want to really get your hands dirty, so just vibe coding. All right, so just go ahead and send this so that it can go ahead and do that. You can close some of the files. Let it just do this. You can cd in here to my Vue blog. Maybe let me put this one up and clear this. Okay, so we have something like this. So I will help you initialize this. So what you need to do here is run the git init, because it is going to do that to initialize this app with git and connect it with the remote repository. Okay, so where are we at? I noticed the result is empty. I think because still needs to go to my Vue. So one thing I noticed these copilots is the ability to, okay, let's just run this again, because I believe it did not run in the correct path. Okay, so let's go ahead and now run it. Yeah, so this should be now correct. Okay, so now it has initialized the Git repository. Okay, so let's create an initial commit with all your project files, and then add the remote repository. So you can see the commit message, and then of course the Git remote add. Of course, what we are doing here is just what you can see here. Okay, so it has done that through the git add. Okay, so I noticed the git command are being processed, but we are not seeing the complete output. So let's verify this. So git status, see where we are at. So we are on the branch main. Okay, so let's try to confirm our git configuration by checking if the remote has been added correctly. That we run the git remote version. Okay, so all right, so now we can see that. Let's just go back here again, because these things are happening. Right, so open your terminal. So I see that the terminal tools are executing, but the outputs are not being. Here's what you need to do. So you can go ahead and run this git main. So before we do that, you can just check where we are at. So if I load this, so it means it has not been added. So I believe we made this. We are already on the main branch. So let me go ahead and run this last command here. Git push origin main. Okay, so this means our project has now been pushed remotely, and we can come here and check this. And you can see now our project now is on with the initial commit as the message. Right, so that is now on the installation of our project. Of course, installing on session 1. Now in session 2, let's continue now in session 2. Now welcome in session 2, basic layout components. And the goal of this session is to create basic components like navbar, footer, and integrate them with app.vue. And as you can see, we can navigate to app.vue, which is this one here. Remember, this is the one which is the root part of our application. Okay, so this is now the prompt that I'm going to have. So create a basic layout components navbar component. Of course, I've indicated source/component/navbar.view with the placeholder like home, about, etc. And then a footer component as well. Under the path, source/component/footer.view with copyright text. And then update source app.view with these components, placing the router view between the navbar and the footer, and then apply simple default styling. So that's what I want us to do next. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and let us wait for it to do the magic. Now you can see it has begun, and here what you can see is that I'll create the navbar and footer components and update app.view with the router view in the middle. Let me do this step by step, and as you can see, it has already begun this. Okay, so these are the different, so where you can see this icon, these are the files which are currently being edited or modified within our application. And as you can see already, we have this. So you just need to look at it and see if you accept whatever it has done, then you can click that button to keep. We also go to the footer.view because you also told it to create under this given path, which is source/components. You can also go ahead and keep this. Now it is still continues to do different things. It is now updating the app.view, and we can go to the file itself, and as you can see, it is generating the different edits, as you can see here. Okay, so these are the code that has been removed. The red lines is the code that you're going to remove once you click keep, and remain with now the rest. You can also undo it if you don't like, but then I'm going to keep this. Okay, so it has done that, and it has also applied the styling that includes, of course, a clean modern design with dark navbar and footer responsive layout that adapts to different screen sizes. To see this in action, make sure your router is properly configured, and I believe we check from, we have the router link. Okay, so let's go ahead and access our terminal, and I think our project is running on this part here. So this is our project. Okay, right, so this is what we have so far, and as you can see, it's not looking that great, but this is what we have, and see the router view is not working. Okay, so now the whatever you can see that is not working is now what will come and type out to your Copilot. So for example, we can see that we are unable to click the different links, that is home, about, and blog. So this is the prompt. I'm unable to click the different links such as home, about, and blog. So that is the first thing that we are unable to do that. I don't know if we installed the Vue router correctly. Okay, so that is what I'm going to there, and let's wait for it. Okay, so what it is saying here is that I checked your project structure. I don't see Vue router properly set up in your application, and maybe this was in the process of removing the ESLint. So it has suggested that we install the Vue router using that command. Okay, so as you can see, the modification on, we are now installing the Vue router 4. I believe that should be the latest one. Right, so now it is now doing some modification. So this is the file that is index.ts, that is the TypeScript file for our router, and of course it has done that, and you can see now what we have here is this. The router now is being installed, so I can go ahead and keep this and also keep the home. And which other file is, so I'll create the remaining Vue components that our router configuration needs within the about. As you can see from our about, it also needs that. Okay, so click, and here we have some issue with can't find. Okay, so let's just wait for it to finish all this. All right, so now it has done different things, and one of them is I've configured the Vue router for your application. Here is what I did: install the Vue router package, created router configuration file at source this. And as I can see here, there is an error, but you can also go ahead and fix it with Copilot here. You don't have to do this manually. You can just have the Copilot fix this for you. So because we can see that within our home view is in source/views/home.view. So let it figure it out and correct this. Okay, so it has now made the changes which have been made here. We also have this, so let's just fix this with the Copilot for the path to be identified correctly. All right, guys, so I've been able to do some editing here and there, and one of the parts that I've been able to achieve, of course, is just to simplify the router within our application. And of course, now our router, as you can see, it is now working. I'm able to navigate to the different pages, of course, within this application. But you can see now it is appearing this way, and I want us to correct this as well. Let me just keep this. Yeah, so that's what I have. So now this is working. Right, so this is our index.typescript. So this is of course our router, and of course you can see we can now navigate to the different links. Now, as you can see, since we have this, it is in one course. I have a page or maybe 3/4 of the entire HTML document. So we don't want this, and what we can do here is I can come here and say we still have the default Vue default page installation about conduct. I only taking up half of the page together with the main content. Could you make it look like a normal website? Also remove the documentation, tooling, ecosystem, community sections, of course the ones which come by default with when you install Vue. So we're going also to remove them. So I'm going to run this so that it can know about that. And of course, if we find it is not refined, we can continue and do our refine of our application. So I've been able to do the layout, solve the layout issues using the prompt I just shown you before. And I can go ahead and accept this. As you can see, we have been able to modify the main.css, which was causing the issue. And of course, that was the layout issues. And as you can see now, we have at least something that is workable. However, the footer is it's not sticking to the bottom. Of course, that one can still be solved by just typing this prompt, not stuck on the bottom. And of course, it's going to do that for us. Okay, so these are the edits which have been applied, and can go ahead and keep this. All right, so now the footer is stuck to the bottom, as you can see. So far, this is what we have so far through vibe coding, and I'm sure this is not the way our application was before. That is the demo project. Now let's go to the other part. Now, before we go to the next session, let's go ahead and run this git add source app.vue, source components app.vue, and then we're going to add it with this command. So the command is going to be this, that is add basic navbar and footer layout components. So far that's what we've added. Then I'm going to push this. Okay, so this has been pushed, and you can come here, reload this, and you'll be able to see the changes that we've been able to make. So these are the changes. So if I click on this link, we're able to see all the changes that we've been making throughout our application so far, the files that we've been able to do. You can also do it by coming here and of course clicking the publish branch, and also actually it has a git commit, so we can come there and do that. All right, now welcome to session 3. So session 3 is now setting up the basic routes and Vue components for the post list and single post. So what we need now here is to have, for example, within the blog, we need to be able to read a post. That is what we call a single post, just from what I'd shown you before. And for us to do that, we need to have the following prompt. So here I'm going to say, create 2 basic Vue components within the source views post list view and source views single post view that is post view.view. Then add a placeholder to each. Then set up routes in source router index.ts, that is the TypeScript, with the /path, which should map to post list view, of course, basically the blog. And then the /post ID should map to the single post view. Then use a dynamic segment for the post ID. Then update the navbar links to navigate to the home post list route. So basically we are just having a post list view, and then we're able to click and get a detailed view of a single post. So let's have that implementation. Right guys, you can now see these are the different files that have been modified. The first one, of course, we have this. So here we've been able to add this path of post ID. So here we're able to navigate to a post. Then of course we're able to go to that specific post like that, and then here we're able to go back to the different posts that we have. So that's what we have so far. Of course, our home contact page is this that we have. So, and then we're able to go to a detailed view of our blog post. So that's what I meant. Then you can go ahead and keep that. So what other edits have we done here? This one we've been able to create it from scratch. And of course, we've been able to create a mock data. And of course, this is what you're able to see on the home page, just a dummy data. However, you can see in a real application, as it tells you here, is that you'd likely fetch this data from an API or store. That is, of course, a database. Right, so here I'm going to go ahead and keep this. We've also created a single post view.view. Of course, this one also has the different data for it, for the different posts that we're going to click. So for example, having all this, if you click this, then it goes to fetch, of course, for example, the first one is that Vue 3 is the latest, and you can see this is the one here. Okay, so I'll keep that. And of course, here we have done some editing, such as removing this logo and updating it with this. And this one, we've removed that. Okay, and there you have it. So that's what we have. So this is our simple blog. You are able to do different. In other words, you can create a simple application or even a more complex application just by using the VS Code agent mode. Of course, I would prefer you go with the Cloud 3.7, which is quite smart in terms of coding. And the last thing that you'd want to do here is that, of course, you can go ahead and push this to your GitHub. And then there's one more thing that you need to do, which is very important. This is called the review and refine. And of course, you can do something like this. Now, what you can do here is that, for example, using this prompt, you can say add JS doc comments to the components in source components and source/view, explaining their purpose and props, if any. For example, let's run that prompt. And this prompt, what is going to do is going to add the JS doc comments to the different view files and of course the component files that you can see here. This is very important because as a developer, in case you want, of course, any developer to come and read your code and understand your application, is very important for you to generate such comments within your different files. So for example, let's see what it's going to do. Right now, what you can see here is these are now the JS doc comments to all the components. And as you can see, from example, the footer, it just tells you something about the footer. It displays copyright information with the current here. The component automatically updates the year using JavaScript's date object. So that's what it does, and you can go ahead and keep that. We also have another one on the home view, that is this one. The main landing page of the blog application displays welcome message and introduction to the blog. These are simple components with no props or complex logic. About view, the same. It will also give that. Then we also have the blog view, as well as displays collection of blogs in a grid layout. The view shows multiple blog posts with their titles, author, publication dates, extracts. Each post has a read more link that navigates the full post. And of course, we have also contact view. We also have post list view, single view, hello world, and all these. So of course, you'll want to have them in all of your files within your application. So that's what you have there. The other last thing that you'd want to have is this one here. Review code in source views single post.view. Are there ways to make it more robust or follow Vue 3 composition API based practices better? Suggest improvements. So as you are now coding along with, in other words, with AI or vibe coding, you'll want to ensure that you're also able to do what we call the code review, so that you can ensure that AI, because it is now generating for you the code, that code is of course robust and it follows all the practices of that given programming language that you are using. So of course, you can go ahead and run a prompt such as this to be able to see what, of course, improvements it will be able to show to you. Right, so I'll stop there, and I believe you've got something. So we'll meet in the next video. But before I let you go, you can also check my courses on Udemy. For example, I have courses on Master Laravel and Livewire, PHP, and other courses. So you can just come to, I will leave the link in the comment section so that you can click and you'll be able to find courses that, of course, will be able to help you navigate your web development career journey. All right, so let's meet in the next video.